welcome everybody to the Magic Beans podcast. We are back again for episode number 174. I'm your host tonight, and I am joined by just one bean, and I've forgotten to say my name again. Chewy. I'm Shorty. You are Chewy. How's it going?
I'm good, mate. I thought for a moment there that just like every single one of our friends, you'd gotten us confused.
I confused myself with you.
Yeah, that's it. It's we drive down the same road going home. You need to turn left at the roundabout. I need to go straight. Okay, that's as long as we maintain that, we're okay. So I'm
not
mate.
doing house swap or wife swap or anything like that. Yeah.
No. Actually, cat cook. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, Jen's hit and miss, so we'll see. Maybe when Jen needs something built, she'll be up for a husband swap because you're much better at that than me. So yeah, we'll post that to the beanbags. No, I'm really really good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Had a busy week at work, as you have too, by the sounds of it. So it's good to forget about work for a bit and catch up and talk about some magic.
Yeah, let's do our other job, right? Yeah.
The one we don't get paid for.
No. Just waiting for the check. It just hasn't come in the mail yet.
Yes, it's coming one day. Yeah. We get paid in enjoyment is the
absolutely,
the thing.
And absolutely do love us and our community. So it is great. And so much of what we do is made possible by... Here, I'm going to throw this to you. Out notice. You never get to do this. Who do we have to thank for making all of our Magic Beans tournament series and everything happen?
Well, it's J-Mud, isn't it?
J-Mud does a lot of the logistics in the background. Absolutely. Shout out J-Mud.
That would be our awesome sponsors, Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. You know the drill. You hear it every single week on all the different things we do, and that's because we absolutely love those guys for all the support that they show us. They are a Facebook auction group, and you can jump in there and win their nightly auctions. There's always good stuff going up, and then extra special things on the weekend, as well as the Win It Now lots where you can just jump on and go sold, and that thing is yours for the price that Pat has set, as well as claim lots when there are new sets being released. So get in on all that, and a million giveaways, just giveaways all the time. Not only does Pat sponsor us and give us the prize money and product that we get to give away to you guys, he gives things away to the community all the time, and over the last few weeks has been giving away stuff just left, right and centre. So go to jpmtgbazaar.com.au. It'll take you straight to the Facebook group, bid on some auctions, win something, and when Pat contacts you, just tell him that the beans sent you.
Yeah, please do. And if you're over in the west of our large red land, you will be absolutely frothing that Pat is actually coming over and he's running some events over in Perth coming up. So jump over to that Facebook page that Shorty mentioned, jpmtgbazaar.com.au. All the details are over there. I believe there's like a free to enter event that has prizes, because that's just what Pat does. That's what he does with us, and he's doing that with some paper stuff as well. So traveling around the country, making Magic a better place to be. That's amazing. Well done, Pat.
Well, he's going to be down in Melbourne for, I think it's actually for Melbourne Cup weekend. There is a Pat's birthday event going on at Plenty of Games. I think there's a massive Highlander event going on that Pat is getting involved in. So if you're into Highlander, I know Azzy G is furiously building Highlander decks at the moment. So yeah, get in on that. Come down to Melbourne and play some Highlander and celebrate Pat's birthday, because it can be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. It's going to be awesome.
Yep. Very good. All right, how did I go on my ad read? Was that good enough?
I'll do it next week. It's okay, but not bad. I gave you absolutely zero notice. I just like the backhand over the net and was like, deal with this one, Shorty. So
I mean, I stuffed up the intro. I've stuffed up the ad read. So you know.
It's all up here.
Why am I here again?
Yeah, and well, you're good at editing the cast and posting it.
Especially after last week's one. last week's was just a massive debacle all around. But anyway,
the reason Cracker's not on the cast this week is we've kicked him off because his audio was so terrible. No, not really. Cracker's feeling a little under the weather, so shout out Cracker. Hope you're feeling better, mate.
Cracker got to experience the robot voice that I had many moons ago in
Episode
the
6,
early stages.
if memory serves. Yeah.
Yep,
I can't remember my kid's birthday, but I remember robot voice in episode 6. Yep. What does that say about me?
There was a serious amount of editing and a little bit of re-recording, and then I released the wrong file that still had all the silences in it, so that would have been awkward for people to listen to that. And eventually we got there, so...
Shambles.
173 episodes, and we've just completely messed it up. But let's get it back on track this week, and let's talk about some Magic. Unfortunately, though, the first thing we're going to talk about is not a good thing.
No, a bit of sad news. We've lost one of the pillars of the Magic community in Sheldon Menery, like the grandfather of EDH. He's invented Elder Dragon Highlander, which is modernly known as Commander. And he's been unwell for a little while, and has unfortunately passed away. So, thank you for your contribution to the game, Sheldon. Not many people that play this game can say that they've changed the way that the game is played. And that's an enormous legacy. And every time we sit down to play a game of Commander, that's our little way of saying, thank you for, bringing a bit of fun and all of the shenanigans of Commander to us, to our kitchen tables and our local game stores and command fests alike. So, yeah, sad news. Thoughts with the family. And, really appreciate everything that Sheldon has done for the game. Yeah,
absolutely. Definitely a huge legacy to leave behind, being so synonymous with the format of Commander, which is just the biggest format in Magic.
It's the juggernaut, right? Yeah, absolutely.
It is what's driving everything in Magic related at the moment. So, yeah, that's a fair old legacy to be attributed to being the grandfather of that format. That's pretty good legacy. And yeah, obviously, we don't know the guy or didn't know the guy, and sort of
never met him, but appreciated his work.
But you can see the effects that it's had, and sort of the tributes and things coming out from the community is obviously had a massive impact on a lot of people's lives. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be very missed, particularly in the States, and we will be remembering every time we play a game of Commander.
Absolutely.
Does that mean we have to have a minute silence before every Commander game? Just to extend the game even further?
There's enough silence waiting for Polywaffle to have his turn. So, so we'll wait for that.
That's very true.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had to get that little drive-by in.
Yeah. Nice. All right. All good. Okay, so another news topic for tonight. Wizards released an article, I think it was earlier on in the week, or it might have been towards the end of last week, on the state of the formats in Magic Arena. And I think this is actually the first official time we've seen stats on this sort of thing. Like, something came out maybe a year ago, and we discussed it on the podcast about like percentages of how much each format was played on Arena, and it was quite alarming.
There was some stats that came out from like the Untapped client from memory, maybe 12 months ago. Yeah.
Yep.
But this is official.
Yeah, it's actually from WoE, and they've done a full article. You can go and look it up. If you just Google State of Formats in MTG Arena, you'll find it. It was released on September the 11th. And it sort of breaks down the formats that they've got on Arena and what their plans are and what they thought of them, that sort of thing. And then, it goes into the percentage of play by format. So I guess they look at the total number of matches played, and they just go, okay, this many are Standard, this many are Historic, Brawl, Alchemy, Explorer, and spit out a percentage. So unsurprisingly, Standard is number one. I think Arena has kind of cemented itself as the place to go to play Standard. Would you think that's fair, Chewy?
Yeah. Much less Standard played on Magic Online. That's the haunt of modern legacy,
vintage,
Pioneer. Yep. Yeah. So it's Standard just seems to be the way. Maybe the free to play aspect, and the tournaments that are run, like the playing events and things like that have attracted people over, and maybe just ladder play rather than there's more at stake, I guess, than playing, Standard challenges and things like that. So I think the convenience is something that has won a few people over from the older client to the new. So yeah, and maybe just volume of player base diversity is a big part of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So they don't give a timeline for this. They've released.
They said a recent
chart.
Month. Yeah.
Okay,
So
month,
this
from a
is
recent month.
I don't know how much in your job you have to use Excel. I use it a lot because all the applications you pay for are pretty much just spicy Excel.
Yes.
But like this is literally just like a set of numbers on a timeline in Excel, like insert graph and take it a screenshot. Like there's no fancy graphics going on here from WotC, but you know, it gets the message across, I guess. It's good to see that whoever did it is in dark mode using things the way that they should.
They're just taking a little screen grab of an Excel chart. Yep.
It's great.
So we've got standard sitting at around the 40% share of the market, which it would be what you think would be. That's the highest by quite a bit. Historic actually comes in second, around 25%. And then it gets a little bit surprising from there. So we've got Brawl, which I've literally never played a Brawl game. It's sitting sort of around 15-ish%, sort of just over 15%.
But with the popularity of Commander, that's it's the closest we get with it. So
it's a convenient way to play pseudo Commander, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. And if all you've ever done is played Commander, that's been your Magic experience, then Brawl seems like an obvious choice for the online client.
Yeah, I know there's definitely some people in our Discord who are super keen on Brawl. It's just something that we've just never gone into. So
never played it, no.
Nope. And then surprisingly, just below Brawl is actually Alchemy at sort of, let's say, 13%-ish. And Explorer is all the way down at sort of just over 5%, maybe 6 to 7% of Explorer. Now,
really surprising to me.
Surprised me. I would have expected Explorer to be a fair bit higher, but it may be that because Explorer is not full Pioneer yet, the people who are really invested in Pioneer, like the people who are testing for Pioneer Season, for RCQs and all that sort of stuff, are just playing on MTGO.
Yeah.
And so Explorer's just kind of in this middle ground where, like, I really enjoy it, and, you know, we played it for our last league. It was a lot of fun because it's pretty close to Pioneer, but if you're actually wanting to test Pioneer, it's not really what you want to be doing. So maybe when we see Explorer actually hit Pioneer, that will jump up a fair bit. But
yeah,
Alchemy,
I think so. Yeah,
Alchemy is the big one.
That's a real discussion point here. The fact that Alchemy's not somewhere below the 0% is surprising to me because it's a trash
It should
format.
just be a flat line, just straight across that zero. No ups and downs, just flat.
Yeah, but if you have if you don't play Arena and you go to, you know, the Wizards website and you download Arena, or you go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and download Arena to your mobile device, you are like railroaded into playing. It just
forces
Alchemy.
you into Alchemy.
Everything is Alchemy.
Yeah.
And that's my theory. And I think you agree. It's just like, there's a whole bunch of people out there who go, oh, I'll play Constructed. You know, like I'll move away from Brawl and I'll grind some ladder. Alchemy is what it defaults to. So that's what we're playing. And then I think they then realize that, you know, the Alchemy cards are, I don't know, like terribly designed and they don't want to scroll through text boxes and all those sorts of things. And then they graduate to, you know, they go, well, maybe I'll go and play Historic where I can use some of the Alchemy cards, but I've got a bigger card pool and that's pretty fun. And then you go, oh, Historic would be good if it didn't have these Alchemy cards. What do I do? I'll go play Standard. Or, yeah, maybe people are graduating to that and then they'll go to Explorer eventually. I don't know. That's my old man yells at clouds. I don't enjoy the Alchemy format and, you know, they're not real Magic cards perspective. But, yeah, I would be very interested to see these stats if Standard was the default. You know, would Standard be at 60% and Alchemy at, you know, below Explorer?
So many times I've imported a deck. You know, you go to Goldfish, you go export a deck, you get a list, you jump into Arena, you hit the little import button, and then you go and edit the deck, and you look, and it's set the default to Alchemy. The default format that it sets it to is Alchemy. Like, it's not an Alchemy deck, like I'm importing a Standard deck, but it defaults to Alchemy. And it seems like or I don't know if it's still doing this, but for quite a while, every time you logged in, if there was a small update or anything like that, it would reset what your most recent played thing was. You know, if you just jumped in and hit play, it would normally keep that as whatever the last thing was you played. You know, you played Explorer,
literally
Best of
happened
One,
to me
whatever.
this week.
Yep,
literally happened to me this week.
And so every time you had a small update, it would default back to Alchemy Best of One. And so if like you said, if you're a new player and you're either you've never played Magic before and you're just getting into play, or you've played a little bit casually and someone's told you, hey, go and play Arena, it's really cool, you can play it on your phone, and it just automatically puts you into Alchemy, well, then of course those numbers are going to be bumped up, like superficially, basically. And so Wizards then takes that, and if you read their article, they take that and go, yeah, we're really happy with how Alchemy's going. It's going great. The format's really good, and lots of people are playing it, and we're really happy where it's going. But the actual community is going, stop making Alchemy cards. Just stop. Get rid of the format because no one likes it. But that's not going to happen if people just keep getting defaulted into it. So it's a little bit annoying, this this is official, absolutely. Come from Wizards, and this is how they're thinking, because all we want is full Pioneer on Arena, and instead they're spending all their time designing Alchemy cards and putting them on Arena instead of just putting 200 cards from Pioneer onto Arena and going, hey, there you go, you've got your Pioneer format, go for it. Yeah,
and you think about the time economy that the developers have. And, there are still things with Arena that, from a UI perspective, from an interface perspective, that we wish could be a bit better, from deck building and things. And they've made improvements in that space. But if they'd taken the time to, do all the design and implementation and coding of the Alchemy cards, because they fundamentally break like Magic as a game system. So the coding and testing and implementation of those cards would take more time than a regular Magic set, right? Or like known cards that, have known interactions and outcomes that you need to be aware of because they're in, Pioneer. Like, it's just not a good use of their time. And what's it, like 13, 14%? Like, if you look at the amount of time they spend coding standard cards versus coding Alchemy cards, like, there's like a 25, 30% differential there. Are they spending 25 or 30% less time on Alchemy? I doubt it. So it just scrap it. Anyway, it's annoying. I think we've made our point. Yeah. I don't like it.
The hard part is like they've come so far and people have invested time and money. And so for them to scrap it, that's just going to be a huge issue. Like with
maybe don't scrap it, but stop pushing it. Like, let the people that want to play it. That's fine. You do you interact with the game and have fun the way that you want to. Like, no qualms. If Alchemy's your thing, like, you do you, dude. But yeah, like, don't do Alchemy stuff at the expense of doing the other stuff that's required within the client. Like, it's not a I don't know. Like, I don't think they're getting their return. And particularly given they are forcing it, these numbers are artificially inflated. And I would take off at least 5% of that, and that would put it very close to Explorer. So use that 5% to put extra, which is, 30% of the Alchemy share of the formats. So take 30% of the Alchemy crew and get them coding Pioneer cards.
I mean, they could have every, like, the top 20 or 30 decks in Pioneer on Arena by just adding 100 cards.
Less than a standard set coming out. Yep.
Yeah, and they're doing that many Alchemy cards every standard set on top of the standard cards.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, we've banged on about this enough.
Point made.
Yeah, I think unfortunately I don't see Alchemy going anywhere anytime soon.
Leave it there. That's fine, but just like stop pushing it. There's some tournament coming up on a couple of weeks in September.
Next weekend.
I don't know if you ever heard of any of these players. Like, there's some. It's like an invite only thing, but there's just like these randoms like. What do we got? Javier Dominguez.
Talking about the Magic Beans Invitational?
Yeah. There's some randoms there. Simon Nielsen, Shota Yasaoka, Gabriel Nassif. There's Greg Orange. There's Reed Duque. Duke? Is it Duke? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. There's Jim Davis, Sam Pardee, Seth Manfield, Yuta Takahashi. So, it's a interesting, I don't know where they got these people from, but yeah, there's like some random event. Can you tell me about that? Have you heard anything about it?
I believe you're talking about the World Championships that's on starting next Friday, I believe, September the 22nd.
Yeah, the only reason I'm not going is it's my wedding anniversary, so I couldn't make it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the reason why. Yep.
Yeah.
So, Worlds is back. We've had it for the last couple of years, but this time it is bigger. We spoke about this when they first made the change. Worlds for the last few years has been quite small. I think one of the Worlds recently was like 16 players, and then it went up to like 32. And they were really, really small events, super hard to qualify for. And the metagame was just really inbred because when you've got like 16 players, you're just looking at those players going, okay, what are they going to play? They're this sort of player, whatever. Or you'd have, if you've got 16 players, you'd have a team of 4 or 5 players who just all come with the same deck. And there's 40% of your metagame just with one deck from one team. It skews it really easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this time they've pumped it out to 110 players, which is a much, much better number. That's really cool. So we should actually see a diverse format, or we should see a proper metagame and get a bit of a direction. And it's basically like a small PT, and it's going to have that similar feel where it's pretty new. Like we only got Eldraine last weekend, so it's going to be 2 weeks old effectively when they're doing Worlds, which is how we used to have Pro Tours. And the structure is pretty much the same. So you've got 3 rounds of draft and then rounds of standard for day 1, day 2, draft again, then some more standard, and then Sunday you play a top 8 with the same, best out of 3 games to win the match, as we've had in the Pro Tours recently. So, yeah, very much like a Pro Tour, and all new standard. So it's going to be cool. It's really going to be quite exciting to watch and see what these pro players actually come up with. What would be even better is if we actually had rotation.
Yes.
And we had a full new standard format, and it's like, all right, here we go. What can the pros come up with? This is brand new, 100% new standard. What can they come up with?
Yeah, the eyes of the world are on this. It's a world championship. It's the best of the best, the cream at the top. Aligning the standard rotation with, do it 2 weeks before the world championship. That would be awesome. It levels the playing field. It creates some excitement, it creates anticipation, and it creates storylines throughout the event where, some random player or team that you might not have heard of, they've qualified, 105th out of 110 players. They've just made it through, and they come with something, unexpected and great, and they might not win the event, but they make serious inroads and create a bit of a stir and hype and excitement, and they didn't do that. They just,
decided to have 3-year standard because that's what everybody wanted.
Oh, yeah.
With some sets that weren't designed to be in 3-year standard.
Exactly right. But yeah, I'm interested to see Eldraine Draft. I've played a bit of Limited and I'm still working the format out. So, I'm forming some ideas on what's good and what's not. So it's always interesting to, watch the pros go about it and show you just how wrong you are. So, I'm looking forward to that. And the draft coverage for the last PT was as good a draft coverage as I've ever seen.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of it, but I heard it was really quite good.
Yeah, it was very good. They just, they had like live updates, like with graphics, and they had like people who knew how to draft and were really familiar with the draft format, like the Cheons of the world and things, doing the commentary. So the insights were really good, and they had good camera angles and all the rest of it. So yeah, it was, much improved over, what is usually something people skip. And I love Limited more than your average Magic player, right? And I have absolutely just like skipped that portion of the coverage, but just gone back and looked at the deck list. So what archetypes are they drafting? What do they think is good? And got my information that way, not watch the live ones. But we were at Polywaffle's place sorting cards, and we're watching Kai draft his deck, and that was good enough to get him into top 8 of the last PT. And I was riveted, and I was excited when something wheeled and things. And it's Kai, right? Like you're watching one of the greatest of all time, which definitely helped. But yeah, it was much better. But yeah, limited, interested in that. But then 4 rounds of standard, and if you go 4-3 or better, you advance to day 2, where you pretty much do that again. And then there's a cut to top 8. So lots of focus on standard, but yeah, you can't eliminate the limited format from your thinking when you're seeing who's doing well. But yeah, I'm interested. What's the prize pool for this? I wonder. I haven't checked that.
That's a good question. I don't know. I imagine it is a lot.
Because there's it's actually really hard to find.
It is. Just anything to do with Wizards is just really hard to find stuff.
Do it took me far longer than it should have to find the qualified players, right? It's just unbelievable.
There's $1 million. $1 million. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
so
I don't have the prize breakdown, but yeah, I think there we go. So all competitors will receive at least $4,000. So just for showing up, you get $4,000, and the winner is getting $100,000. So that's a pretty flat prize pool, to be honest.
Yeah, it is,
which is kind of good. And that's, I guess, it's a good reward to go. You've been grinding all year. You've qualified through your RCQs or your regional championships. You've got to the PT, and you've had a good enough year. Either you've done really well at a bunch of PTs and you've earned enough points to get to Worlds, or you've won PTs or top 8'd or whatever you need to do to get there. Here's a big tournament where you can just come and have fun, and no matter what, you're walking away with $4,000. And you do reasonably well, you might walk away with $10,000. And yeah,
well, do you know what that is?
That's pretty good.
You know what that is? That is reimbursing players for their flights. So old structure.
Yeah.
People would get appearance fees and flights paid for, where $2,000 for a return flight to the US seems pretty reasonable from pretty much anywhere in the world. Accommodation, transfers, you're probably gonna be in Vegas for a little while. So, the accommodation cost racks up. Some sightseeing, putting a couple of $100 on black, or all those things that you do in Vegas.
As you do.
Yeah. So it's having it flat like that absolutely makes sense, and including what are effectively appearance fees into the overall prize pool calculations, because it'd be it's a $400 prize pool for a $400,000 prize pool for the old PTs, but they'd spent
but there's a lot of extra
$100,000 or something
that aren't seen. Yep.
Yeah, so
whereas now they get to market it as $1 million prize pool.
Yeah,
and that's totaling everything all in together.
Yeah, so everybody,
cool.
It makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. So don't hate it.
All right, so yeah, that's on next weekend. I will be playing in a Battle Spirit Saga Grand Open on the Saturday, so I will not be watching the commentary.
I will not be watching either. Jen and I, Frankie will be at camp, and the little two will be babysat, and we'll be halfway up a mountain somewhere. Just us, no kids.
Nice.
Just going for an overnight hike, and we'll sit by the campfire and try to remember how to talk to each other.
You might need more than one night to remember that.
Yeah, you'll be like, who are you again? You're the person that does the other half of the housework in the house, right? Yeah. You're the person that I debate whose turn it is to change the nappy.
Yeah. Very good. All right, so who is your money on? We do have, it is a stacked list. Who is your money on for this event?
It's
I'm looking at the list of players, and they're based on their ranking, which is how many points they've earned through the year from their different performances in PTs and that sort of stuff. And Javier Dominguez is number 1, Simon Nielsen is number 2, and Nathan Stoyer is number 3. I'm pretty sure all 3 of those players are on the same team.
Right.
So they've obviously been doing very well for themselves for the year to end up like that. So,
and the way that Simon Nielsen had a run at the last Pro Tour. Like, he's hot. He's in form as well.
Yeah. I mean, you've got, like, of those three players, Javier is a prior world champion.
Yep.
Nathan Stoyer is the current reigning world champion and who also won a PT and came second in a PT or something this year. Like, yeah, dude's a freak. I think he's like 22 or something stupid as well. Like, he's a child.
Oh, right.
But,
okay.
Yeah. I would like to see Javier win again. Like, I really like Javier. He's cool. And
I love
sweet to see a double world champion again.
Yeah. Well, that's that has been a few years. So I'm just having a look through, and there's a name that I haven't seen a lot of in the coverage. It's kind of been flying under the radar, but has qualified in 19th. And this is someone who's been at the top tables at a world championship before, and that's Marcio Carvalho. So I looked at those names in the top list and those names that I read out when I was memeing, but when I actually take a look at it and have a look at those players that have done well over the year, you know, I mean, Yuta Takahashi could absolutely win any event that he rocks up to. But yeah, I will, a bit of a dark horse, and I'll throw my 2 cents in on Marcio Carvalho.
Nice. All right. So you're going for a bit of an old school pick, and I'm going for the easy pick, the guy that's ranked number 1.
Well, he's got the mono red card as well. Like,
he does. He is the fervent champion, so
he is. So
back him all the way.
Card we've both cast a lot of, because randomly
I have cast so many fervent champions. So many.
Have you ever had the turn 1 fervent champion, turn 2 double fervent champion?
Oh, yeah.
How good is that?
Plenty of times.
Yeah, that's you giggle to yourself a little bit, don't you? It's like, take 6. Yeah.
yeah, nice.
Your opponent's got a tap land over there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yep. All right. So
what are they playing? What are they going to play?
Yeah, so they're going to be playing standard. So we thought we'd have a bit of a look and see how Wilds of Eldraine has affected the standard metagame, because, like we said, Wilds of Eldraine was designed with rotation in mind. So it was coming in and it was not meant to have the old sets that we've still got in, which meant from a power level perspective, we sort of weren't expecting huge things in terms of shake-ups in the format. You know, we've got some pretty established decks. We've got some really strong cards that some of us are sick of. They had to ban some cards not that long ago, so
there's certain cards that have got a real hold over the format.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't have my soundboard. So yeah, we weren't expecting huge changes, but there seems to have been a little bit of a shake-up. So, I mean, we won't really know until Worlds happens, but have you been dipping your toe into Standard at all? I've literally played one game, and I won it. So I'm sitting 100% win rate in Standard, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
So
season's done.
I've been playing Explorer. I've been one of the 5%, and got up to like Diamond 2 last season, and like just, I don't know, ran out of like interest to like have that last push for Mythic, but was playing a bunch of that and really enjoying that format. But I've come back to Standard. Like, Wilds has brought me back. There's a bit of hype. Our Standard channel on our Discord's been kind of buzzing, and there's some cool decks out there. And, there's some, expected decks. We talked in preview season that, we'll probably see this, and then, Mountains are good again. And,
Mountains are always good.
Mountains are always playable. They're not always good. Right. Yeah. So
just sometimes you need to put other colours with it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's start there. So you've called out mono red, and this is like, if you're going to play Standard, you've got to be able to beat this, right? So what does the current mono red list look like if I was going to not play Alchemy, but actually play Standard as Garfield intended? And what am I looking at?
So we've had a mono red list for quite a while that just hasn't been good enough, mainly because of Sheoldred. It was just it's been a problem for ages where, you're doing well and then they land a Sheoldred, and there just wasn't a ton of good answers for Sheoldred, and all it took was and unchecked Sheoldred for 2 turns, and it was just game over. Like, you couldn't attack through it, you couldn't kill it, and they just sat behind it, gained life, you lost life. They did other things, drew other cards or whatever, and that was it. You just couldn't get back into the game. And so Mono Red just really struggled. It just couldn't push over the top. So we've picked up a couple of new cards. So, playing Swift Spears, Phoenix Chicks, Bloodthirsty Adversaries, been playing them for ages. They're still really solid cards. Some lists running cards like Squeeze as well. They're not too bad. Got the Play with Fires, Lightning Strikes, Commando Faces Kakazan. That's all standard. Throw in some, a whole bunch of mountains, some Mishra's Foundries, and a Sekenzan or 2. That's what we've had for a while. So new cards that we've picked up. There's the Charming Scoundrel, which I spoke about on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, which is the 1 and a red 1/1 with haste, and when it enters the battlefield, you can choose one of 3 things. You can discard a card and draw a card, you can create a treasure, or you can create a Wicked Roll token. So the Wicked Roll gives +1/+1 and something else. I can't remember what it does. You can't remember that
when
one,
it dies, target opponent loses
life. Is it pings
life.
for 1?
Yeah, each opponent loses life.
Yep. So 2/2 haste that pings for 1 when it dies. That's pretty good. That's kind of what you want a fair bit of the time, so that's not bad. There's also Godric, Cloaked Reveler.
So I want to talk about Godric because there's so many little interactions here. There's Murderous Rage is the obvious one, right?
Monstrous Rage.
Monstrous Rage, sorry. Yeah, so where you get, you get an extra permanent. But Squee, when Squee attacks, you get a thing. When Chapter 3 of Commando Faces Kakazan happens, then it's exiled and then comes into play.
Yep.
So, that triggers. There's...
Trigger it with your Phoenix Chicks.
Trigger it with your Phoenix Chick. You can just play 2 cheap creatures. You can play Monastery Swift Spear and Phoenix Chick. There's so many ways that you can do it. And it is super, super cool. Like, it's, 3 mana 4/4 dragon with fire breathing.
I'll read the text of it just so people know. So it's 1 red for a 3/3 with haste. It's a legendary human noble. And it's got Celebration. So the Celebration is a thing that triggers when 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield. And the wording is different on almost all of the Celebration things. They all have a slightly different trigger. They all trigger off 2 or more non-land permanents entering, but when it actually triggers is different. So some of them are at the beginning of combat, if 2 or more, like if Celebration had triggered, you get this, and various different things like that. This one is just, as long as 2 or more non-land permanents entered into the battlefield under your control this turn, Godric is a 4/4 flyer, a dragon, with fire breathing, which is pay a red, and dragons you control get +1/+0 till end of turn. So it can trigger at any time, or it just... I don't know if this is actually a trigger. I think... I haven't seen this in play, but does this just happen? Because it's just, as long as 2 or more have entered, Godric is a dragon.
Yep. Yeah, it
so
doesn't
there's
say...
no responding to it?
No, it doesn't
Once those 2 permanents have entered?
Yeah, I don't think you can. Like, there's no, activation...
Well, there's no trigger clause for it. There's no, at the beginning of your combat, if this happened,
or there's no when... the second permanent comes into play or anything like that.
So it's either a 4/4, 3 mana 3/3 haste, fine, you play that in your mono red decks, no worries. Or it's a 3 mana 4/4 haste, and you can pump it a 3 mana 4/4
cool.
flyer with haste. Pretty good, good card.
Yeah,
I did
like
not see that in the previews.
No,
exactly like you pointed out. Like, there are a bunch of ways to have permanents enter the battlefield for free almost, or two, so you can get like Kumanu flipping and coming into the battlefield, and then you cast some other permanent, and there you go, you've triggered it. So very cool. Monstrous Rage was the other one that we picked up, which is what you mentioned. Yeah, it's a single red for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and then you create a monster roll attached to it, which is +1/+1 and trample. Seems good.
Yeah, it's huge.
And then the other big pickup is the Witch Stalker Frenzy.
Yeah. So this is your way to deal with Sheoldred that you talked about at the start of this deck. So it's you just attack with your dudes. It's an instant kill Sheoldred before blocks.
3 and a red, instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature that attack this turn, and it deals 5 damage to target creature. So you can attack, and before your opponent gets to declare a blocker, it counts how many attackers you've got. So if you've got 3 creatures attacking, you attack with the 3 creatures. Before they get to declare a blocker, you can cast this for a single red, kill their Sheoldred. Fantastic. So, big pickup in this sort of deck, and that's definitely what you wanted to do, because, it was always hard to, well, I'm just going to attack into your Sheoldred. I'm got 2 red mana untapped. I might have a lightning strike. Are you going to block with your Sheoldred? And they just go, I just won't block. And they take and 1 or 2, and then you're like, okay, now I can't kill your Sheoldred.
And even if they do block, they've 2-for-1 you, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So this is a 1-for-1 clean answer.
Yeah, you're not losing an attacker. It's a single red, deals with Sheoldred. Yeah, very, very good pickup. So
good upgrades.
Yeah, I'm yet to play this deck. I need to spend a few rare wild cards to get this, which I don't really have. So I probably should get onto that. But yeah, I have hope for mono red in the current format. Anyway, we talked about mono red for a long time.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk. I'm going to the polar opposite end of the metagame, and I'm going to talk about a control deck. So, Esper Control is definitely something I've seen pretty well represented in the standard metagame.
I think Esper Control was around a fair bit before.
Absolutely.
Like we haven't paid attention to standard for quite a few months. So I think Esper and Blue-Black was quite big.
Yeah, before. I can definitely see that. And it's picked up, Sunfall along the way as far as a new Wrath, which is pretty good. But I'll just sort of run through it. 4 Wandering Emperor, cut down, go for the throats, for spot removal, make disappear, plus Sheoldred's Edict, make disappear and negates with some dissipates. It's got Siphon Insight for card advantage, Void Renge, 4 copies of Memory Deluge, couple of Sunfalls, Farewells, a Celestus, 27 land, and it's got sort of everything you would expect in the sideboard. There's some Sheoldreds, some Disdainful Strokes, some cut downs. But there's also 3 copies of Chrome Host Seed Shark, the 2/4 that incubates when you cast a non-creature spell. So it's the control deck of the format, and it seems pretty good. And yeah, Sunfall's the only real new card.
Well, Sunfall's not even new. It's from March of the Machine. I'm just scrolling through this list. The only new card that's in this deck is 1 creature land. A white black creature land.
But I don't know. I guess Sunfall still feels new to me because I haven't played a lot of standard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's solid. Like, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. But yeah, it's like mono red. It is a deck that you have to have a plan for if you're going to enter into standard, right? So, I would say they're the bookends of the format. Right, that's your aggro deck and your control deck in that sense. So there's a bunch of decks in between, which we can talk about, which are cool. But keep those in mind. Have you got an in between deck to talk about? Something that's not quite an aggro deck, something that's not quite a control deck.
I'll talk about something that's a bit newer as well. So and Cracker definitely would have been talking about this deck tonight if he was on, which is the Fairies deck. We spoke about it on the Limited podcast that Fairies is going to be a thing. It may not be good enough yet, but probably when we get back to Lorwyn, it might be a full deck. But we've got quite a bit of it now. So yeah, running blue-black stuff, creatures mostly, and a bunch of spells to sort of back them all up. So you got Sleep Cursed Fairy, which is the 1 mana 3/3 flying ward 2, but it comes in with 3 stun counters on it, and then you can pay 2 mana to untap it. Yeah, solid card. You can drop it down on turn 1. It works really well with another new card, Spell Stutter. Obviously, call back to Spell Stutter Sprite, which is 1 and a blue instant counter target spell unless its controller plays 2, plus an additional 1 for each fairy you control. So
it's mana leak.
Yeah, drop your spell Sleep Cursed Fairy down on turn 1, and then you've got mana leak on turn 2. And if they don't cast anything that you want to counter, then you can put that 2 mana into removing a stun counter from your Sleep Cursed Fairy.
Or you flash in a Fairy Mastermind. Or
Yep. So 4 Fairy Mastermind, which we've seen before, that's the Utah World Championship card. We've got Obira, the Dreaming Duelist, which is the uncommon 2/2 flying with flash. And when fairies enter the battlefield under your control, you ping opponents. Halo Forager, which is from the last set, March of the Machine. 3 mana, 3/1 flyer. Urtai, Sheoldred, just because you're playing black, so of course you're playing Sheoldred. Talion. Talion is an interesting card. Have you seen anyone playing this?
No, I haven't.
No?
Haven't come up
I've heard a little bit
yet.
about it, but it's 2 blue-black for 3/4 flying fairy. As Talion, the Kindly Lord, enters the battlefield, choose a number between 1 and 10. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value, power, or toughness equal to the chosen number, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. So it's interesting that you can choose mana value, power, or toughness. Like, you can pretty easily look at what your opponent's playing and go, all right, if I choose 4, I'm going to shut off, well, not shut off, like you're not stopping them from casting stuff, but I'm going to get a bunch of value out of you casting the majority of your deck. Or, you know, you're going up against mono red, you pick 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And you're going to, like, you're draining them for 2, or they're losing 2 life and you're drawing a card. So, seems pretty good. It is only a one-off, but yeah.
But seems pretty good.
Bad.
The list that we're looking at doesn't include this, but when I have a look at other lists, and certainly my experience playing on ladder, is the full complement of Ego Drain, which is, you know, doing...
I don't even know what that is.
Standard's best Thoughtseiz's impression. So,
okay.
1 black for a sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-layered card from it. That player discards that card. If you don't control a fairy, exile a card from your hand.
Yep.
So you want to play your Dream Thief, and if you've got a fairy, it's like better than Thoughtseize.
Yeah. I feel like
if you meet that condition.
Yeah. I feel like this deck really needs another 1 mana fairy. So if you can put in another 4 copies of a 1 mana fairy that's good, then that's triggering your spell stutters and that ego, whatever it is.
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
lot more consistently. So and then you're just running a bunch of removal. You know, got cut downs, go for the throats, spell stutters. We've got quick study, which is the instant speed divination, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's really good. And I've seen some fairy fencing being
fairy
played
fencing
as well in some numbers. Yep.
X and a black target creature gets -X/-X to end a turn. It gets an additional -3/-3 if you controlled a fairy as you cast this spell. So, interesting. I don't think the deck's quite there yet. I think it won't be till we get to Lorwyn, and then, it'll start to see a bit more play. So, speaking of play, you've got a deck that you've been playing?
Oh, man. I've been all over this. So, it doesn't feel like a standard deck, right? Okay, so picture this. You play some Triumphs. Maybe you channel a Herd Migration, play a Leyline Binding. So you keep yourself alive until you get to 5 mana. And because of all of your Triumphs, you've got 5 colours. So then you play a battle, Invasion of Alara. And Invasion of Alara then lets you exile cards from top of your library until you exile 2 non-land cards with mana value 4 or less. You may cast one of those cards without paying its mana cost, put one of them into your hand. Then put the other cards in the bottom of your library in a random order. So that's pretty good. So, like, you get to cast something
Cascade.
small, right? Yeah, so yes, it's Cascade. So what you do is you construct your deck so, you always hit Bramble Familiar, which is green and 1 for a 2/2 that adds green and you can pick it back up with an activated ability. But
That's not what you're playing it for.
No. So you can choose to cast the adventure side, which is Fetch Quest, which is 5 green sorcery adventure, mill 7 cards, put a creature, enchantment, or land card from among the milled cards onto the battlefield. So what you do is you mill Cemetery Desecrator. What? Which is 4 black for a 4/4 with menace. When it enters the battlefield or dies, you can choose one. You can give a creature exile a card from a graveyard, and a creature can get -X/-X equal to that card's mana cost. Or, importantly, you can remove X counters from a permanent. So you remove the counters from Invasion of Alara, which lets you cast Awaken the Maelstrom. So you cast the invasion, you cascade into Bramble Familiar, cast the adventure side, hit Cemetery Desecrator, flip your Alara, and it says target player draws 2 cards. Yep, I'll have that. Put an artifact card from your hand into the battlefield. Oh, look, I'm playing Phyrexian Fleshgorger, so I get to, put a 7-mana artifact with lifelink and all of the other text that it has. You then can make a copy of a creature in the battlefield. So you can have 2 Fleshgorgers, or you can play another Cemetery Desecrator and kill something. Or you might have something else lying around, like, I don't know, a Tali. Then you distribute 3 +1 counters amongst 1, 2, or 3 creatures you control, and then you destroy a permanent an opponent controls. Do you remember Cruel Ultimatum?
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you ever cast Cruel Ultimatum on turn 5?
No.
Because that's kind of what this deck does, right?
Yeah.
It just creates a absolutely
just chains value
position. Yeah, and it's like one big turn, like turn 5, and you've got a Cemetery Desecrator, you've got a Fleshgorger, you've got their creatures are dead, or you've got 2 Fleshgorgers that have got counters on them, so they're not 7/5s anymore, they're 8 whatevers, and it's absolutely insane. And then sometimes you go, I didn't get to, didn't hit my spell, or they killed my thing or whatever. So you just play Virtue of Persistence and you just bring stuff back from your graveyard, or
which you can put into play off of a Bramble Familiar.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, and sometimes you just get to 7 mana and cast Bramble Familiar and go, oh, look, I got an Atraxa. That's pretty fun. So it's, the deck's dumb. Sometimes, decks can get under it. Sometimes you get stuck on a land. It's like, I don't have a green source, or you always got a green source. You don't have a red source or whatever. But yeah, it's so powerful. It's just like a turn 5. It doesn't win the game on turn 5, but it creates a winning position that is really hard to beat. So yes, mono red can get under it, particularly if it stumbles and turns into turn 6, red will get you dead by then. But, herd migration and the adventure side, which is of Virtue of Persistence, which is Lochthwain Scorn, gains you some life as well. And sometimes you have Leyline Binding for 1 on turn 2. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It does not feel like a standard deck. It feels like a commander deck, honestly, with the shenanigans that you do. You're literally doing things on that scale where, when your backup plan is a Atraxa and a Tali, you're going pretty big, right? So yeah,
it seems like the sort of deck that does not enjoy playing against counter spells.
No, absolutely not. It's definitely a thing that needs to be thought of when you're building your sideboard. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, there's ways around that in the board for sure. But the Esper control lists can definitely beat it. And the red decks can get underneath it. But everything else, it just powers.
Just kind of going over the top of everything.
Yeah, it's just the biggest thing you can. I
like that. You can play an Invasion of Alara, hit a Bramble, or play the Bramble Familiar for free, and if you don't hit, one of the creatures or whatever you want, but you hit another Invasion of Alara, well, you can just play that and then do it again and just chain them all together and just end up with this just ridiculous board by the end of it.
No, you can't. Cool. It doesn't hit a battle.
It's not an enchantment.
No.
I keep looking at invasions as enchantments.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that forever.
Not quite.
Okay, so you can't do that.
They kind of are, but they're not. Yeah.
Yeah. In the sideboard, it's got 4 Mirror Shell Crab, which is 7 mana, 5/7 artifact creature, but I'm assuming it's in there because it has a channel ability. 2 and a blue, discard Mirror Shell Crab, counter target spell or ability unless it's controlled, pays 3.
Yeah, you can't just play normal counter spells because
you hit them off your cascading.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
no, that's fine. I do have a question. Like, the deck runs 2 Luca Bound to Ruin.
Yeah, I've cut them.
Yeah, my question was with the plus ability, like +1, add red and a green, spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. Can you cast the adventure sides of creatures with that mana? Does that work?
Probably.
Because that's the only thing I can think that is in the deck for.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I played it a few times and it's just like, I've got a copy in hand, it's a mulligan. Like, I keep going back, reading it, going, you know, is the -4 good here? Is this just for against control decks to, you know, play a 4-mana Planeswalker and start making 3/3s? Like,
it could just be for removal. Like, it's removal that you can play that technically costs more than 4, because you can play it for 4 mana with the completed, but its mana value when you're cascading is 5.
I changed up 1 land to add an extra white source. I can't remember which one I dropped, and added some of the 5-mana Wrath just to keep itself alive. Yeah, that's what I did, and that's been really good. So
yeah, cool.
Luca got the boot, and two sweepers.
Yep. So, there's a few. Well, I was saying before we started recording, there's that deck. Insanity's posted a couple of decks that he's seen way up in Mythic, because that's where he is, of other crazy creature-based combos and things, like some infinite loop where you're conniving over and over until you find a Battlefield Butcher and a few other different things like that. So I was saying it sort of feels like, I can't remember what set it was. I know we had companions with the original rules, but you had like the Garuda combo decks and a few other creature-y based combo decks, and none of them were like crazy over the top where it's like, yeah, this is breaking the format, but they were strong enough that you could have a lot of fun playing them and do pretty well, but they still had their downsides. So
they died to variance.
I like that. It's cool. Like, I like when a format's like that. It means you can play these spicy decks. It means you can play Stuffy Doll and like kill yourself but kill your opponent at the same time and all that sort of stuff with that dragon that I was getting off of Court of Calling. And, you know, you can do funky things like that where it's like, this is just completely off the wall, but it actually works and does really well. So
yeah, it invites a bit of creativity and things like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Creativity's not it's not in standard.
I'm sorry. That deck needs like a counterspell called like Restriction or something like that. So, because restriction breeds creativity.
Nice.
Yep. So you mentioned that Cracker would be talking about Fairy's deck. Let's finish off on the deck that Cracker's been the most excited about, because he loves himself some, like, is it tempo or mono blue tempo? Yep. And Tolarian Terror's been close to his heart for a little while. And
so this is the deck that I have played. This is my one game of Standard I've played. Is with
so
this
you're
deck.
undefeated in the Standard.
I'm undefeated. I've played one game, and it was with this deck, and I won. That was it. We're not going to mention the fact that I was in Bronze 4, but shows how much. I mean, I posted up my my stats from Wizards, and I'd played like 12 games in the last season. So
I re-signed up for that and still don't get it.
Yeah, nice.
So frustrating.
Anyway, so this is, it's the Is It Spells deck that we've seen for a while, or kind of the, mono blue spells type deck with red in it. Now that we have Hearth Elemental to go with your Tolarian Terrors, works quite well. And then you've picked up a couple of extra spells. So we've got Become Brutes, which is a 2-mana sorcery. 1 or 2 target creatures each gain haste till end of turn. For each of those creatures, create a monster roll token attached to it. So it's the +1/+1 and trample. Works fantastic. You play a Tolarian Terror or a Hearth Elemental, or a couple of each, whatever.
Play both,
for 1 mana each, and then you play a 2-mana spell, gives both of them haste and +1/+1 and trample. Works really well. I'm speaking from the experience of my one game.
It's like Overrun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleight of hand, fantastic pickup. Just
quick studies here as well.
A little bit deeper. Make disappears, quick studies, lightning strikes, fading hopes, considers, fires of victory, and a couple of slip out the backs to keep your creatures safe. Is It lands, and we've picked up the Restless Spire, which is the Is It creature land. So
creature lands are so powerful.
I didn't craft any of these. I just put in I put in like an extra Sekenzen and an extra Otawara.
Whiteboard Achievement Reefs.
That sort of thing.
So I love Fires of Victory. So I was, when Cracker posted this, I'm like, how's Fires of Victory? I want this card to be good. Like, it does everything I want a card to do.
I've actually played it a bit, not in this deck, but when I was playing.
I've played it in Limited plenty, and it's been great, but I haven't played it in Constructed at all. But it seems good.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, 5 mana, kill something, then draw a card as well. Like, it's a good way to kill Sheldred.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it is. You've got to make sure you're careful when you cast it, in that, it's dealing damage based on the number of cards in your hand. So you may be needing it to kill something and you don't have enough cards in your hand to actually kill it. So
yeah,
you do get to draw if you kick it, you get to draw the card before
it counts how many cards in your hand.
Counts how many cards.
But you're
also down a card because you've cast the spell.
Yeah,
so yeah, I found it was good as a 1 or 2 of index, but you definitely don't want more.
Do you know why we like it?
Because it says draw a card and it deals damage.
Well, it's kind of like Electrolyze, right? It's Electrolyze's cousin,
close.
Right? Yeah,
it's Electrolyze at home.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
You got to pay 5 mana for it.
Yeah, but yeah, I know Cracker's been playing and even winning some games with it. So yeah, pretty cool. Standard looks pretty fun at the moment. So we've got the 2 bookends that we talked about with the mono red deck and the control decks. There's a combo deck. There's tempo decks. There's there's
a Golgari mid-range deck. Like there's everything in between.
So it seems pretty healthy and diverse at the moment. So yeah, maybe if you're playing Alchemy, come over to Standard. You'll have more fun, I promise.
Yeah, maybe look into Arena and go, oh, that's what that alchemy word means when I keep playing these games.
Exactly right.
Didn't realise I wasn't actually playing Standard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. All right, well, cool. if you do want to play some Standard, we have a league kicking off next week. So in a few days' time, so Monday night, we will kick this league off, getting straight into it. And we're going back to the same structure that we had for the last league. Seemed to work pretty well with the round robin stage, the Swiss rounds, and then the top 8. So we'll get into that. And this will be our last league for the year. And then we'll have the invitational sort of towards the end of November. So last chance to get that direct qualification, last chance to earn some Invy points and get your way into the league. So get in on it. There is a registration post in the Tournament Series channel.
Just clicked on it because you reminded me.
Yep, nice. So I think we're around 30 players. Yep, we're at 30 players now that you've registered. Cracker still hasn't registered. So, we should see around 40-ish players, as we normally do, 40 to 50. And, there's cash up for grabs, as there always is, thanks to Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. So get in on that. Figure out what deck you're going to play. I might do a bit of a draw for the groups on Monday night, and then I'll basically be keen to get straight into some matches. So I probably won't even play a game of Standard between now and then, which means you've got an extremely high chance of getting a free win. So come and play me on Monday night. That's going to do us for this week, Chewy. So the usual wrap up. If you want to be in on that league, if you don't know what we're talking about, you've just found the Magic Beans and you want to get in on this action, welcome. Hopefully you stick around for whatever reason that people listen to us.
Free stuff in our tournaments. Come on.
Yeah. But you want to be in our Discord. There's a link for that always in the show notes. Come and jump in there. Come and say g'day. And get in on all the stuff that we do, as well as the giveaways. I gave away a collector's box, thanks to Josh and Pat's this week. Cracked it on stream. Didn't get anything crazy valuable, but it was fun cracking it and looking at all the cards. So that was good. But that's in the Discord. So come and check us out there. We have a merch store. You can get Magic Beans, hoodies and t-shirts and mugs and mouse pads and all that sort of stuff. Link for that is also in the show notes. Go to check out Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar, all their daily auctions and bargains that you can pick up there. Just go to jpmtgbazaar.com.au and that'll take you straight to the Facebook group where you can join up and get in on all that action. And if you want to know where we are in all the various places, just go to magicbeanscast.com. You'll find links for YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and X/Twitter. If you'd like to find me on that platform, I'm at PSync. Chewy, you are?
At Chewy MTG.
And Cracker? Oh, Cracker's not here. Sorry. That's going to do us for this week. Thank you, as always, for listening. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.